She was just seconds away from ruining everything. After years of giving up so much, not sleeping enough, and working her way up from a basement in Colorado to the most important building in our country, Dana Perino walked into her boss's office, ready to quit her job. She had practiced what she was going to say. She had accepted that she was giving up. And then her boss talked first. What he said next changed her whole life and showed her something about success that most people never learn. And it is nothing like what you have heard before. It was 2007 and Dana Perino was really tired. She had been working super long hours at the White House as deputy press secretary. The pressure was making her feel terrible. She was not sleeping well. She was not eating the right foods. Every single day felt like a fight she was losing. So, she made up her mind. She was going to walk into Ed Gillespie's office, the director of communications, and she was going to quit. She had practiced what she would say. She had accepted that she was walking away from everything she had worked so hard for. She went up to Ed after a meeting and said, "Can I see you after the communications meeting?" Ed nodded his head and said back, "Yes, I need to talk to you too." When they sat down together, Dana was ready to tell him she was quitting, but Ed talked first. "The president would like to announce you as press secretary on Friday." Dana sat there completely shocked. The job she had dreamed about since she was a little kid. The job she thought she could never get. It was being given to her at the exact same moment she was about to throw it all away. Ed Gillespie did not find out that Dana had come to quit until many years later when he read her book about her life. She never told him what she had planned. She said yes to the job, walked out of his office, and started getting ready for the biggest challenge of her life. But before Dana Perino ever stepped foot in Washington, she had to survive years of being told no, failing, and one really sad phone call that made her think her dreams were gone forever. Dana Marie Perino was born on May 9, 1972 in Evanston, Wyoming. Her family moved to Denver when she was little, and she grew up in Parker, Colorado. But every summer she went back to her grandparents' cattle ranch in Wyoming, where she collected eggs, opened gates for the cows, and looked for dinosaur bones. Those summers taught her about working hard and taking care of herself before she even knew what those words really meant. Her father, Leo, owned a small store, but he loved politics. Starting in 3rd grade, Dana and her sister had to read 2 newspapers every single day and talk about the articles before dinner. While other kids watched cartoons on TV, Dana hurried home from early church to watch political talk shows. Her mother, Jan, worked in marketing, but also helped refugees running away from the Soviet Union through Lutheran family services. Watching these families escape communism and start fresh lives taught Dana why America was a safe place for people looking for freedom. When Dana was 7 years old, she visited the White House during the Carter presidency. Watching July 4th fireworks over the Washington Monument on the airplane ride home, she fell in love with the nation's capital. Her Italian family background shaped who she became. Her great-grandparents came to America from Italy, and her grandfather, Leo Ernest Perino, taught her about the American dream through his own family story. Dana got her bachelor's degree in mass communications from Colorado State University Pueblo in 1994. Then she got a master's degree in public affairs reporting from the University of Illinois Springfield. She covered the state capitol for a CBS news station called WCIA. She was good at her job. She thought she knew where her life was going. Then she moved to Washington, D.C., and real life hit her hard. Her first job was answering phones as a staff assistant for Congressman Scott McInnes from Colorado. She was basically a secretary. The White House podium seemed impossibly far away from where she was. She worked her way up to become press secretary for Congressman Dan Schaefer. She did that job for almost 4 years. Then in 1998, Schaefer said he was retiring. Dana had no job, no plan, no idea what would happen next. She hung up the phone and cried, but sometimes the worst times lead to the best chances. She moved to England with her new husband. Then they moved to San Diego. She was far away from Washington and far away from politics. It seemed like her career in government was over, that something else was waiting for her on a flight from Denver to Chicago, and it would come in the form of a British accent, an empty seat, and a love story that seemed totally impossible. The story of how Dana met her husband sounds like something from a movie. On August 17, 1997, both Dana and a British man named Peter McMahon were running late for a flight from Denver to Chicago. They became the last 2 people to get on the plane. By pure luck, they were given seats right next to each other. Seat 13A and Seat 13C. Peter was walking down the walkway behind Dana. He later said he was walking behind this cute little blonde girl with her ponytail swinging, and he hoped he would sit next to her. When Dana saw him, she made a quick decision in her mind. She thought, "Oh, he is cute and he is not wearing a wedding ring and he has a British accent." They talked for 2.5 hours straight without stopping. The conversation went so smoothly that the flight felt like just minutes. When they landed, Dana gave him a card with all her contact information on it. Then she waited. 10 painful days went by with no word from Peter. Dana spent those 10 days unable to eat or sleep or even read a book. She was completely filled with worry. Then finally, his email came. But the problems seemed impossible to solve. Dana was 25 years old. Peter was 43. There was an 18-year age difference between them. He had been married 2 times before. He had 2 children from his past relationships, and he lived in England. Dana remembers looking out the window and praying. She said, "Okay, Lord, I know I asked you to help me find somebody, but he lives in England and he is 18 years older than me and he has been married twice before. Did I mention he lives in England?" She was scared to tell her parents. She was almost frozen with fear about how they would react, but her father surprised her. He said an older man was exactly what she needed because she was always in a little bit of a hurry in her life. Less than a year after they met, Peter asked her to marry him suddenly outside the Washington Cathedral. Dana made him wait exactly 1 year from when they first met for her answer. She wrote him a letter explaining her feelings. At the very end, she wrote, "Yes, I will marry you." They got married in September 1998 in a private ceremony in England. On their 20th anniversary in 2018, Dana wrote about what 2 decades of marriage feels like. She said, "It feels like forever and no time at all. The best decision I ever made, and sometimes the hardest thing I have ever done, but also the most rewarding." She said, "It still feels unlikely," and asked, "What if I had missed the plane or was given a different seat?" Dana and Peter had built a quiet life in San Diego. She was running a small PR company. He was working in business. They were happy. And then one morning in September 2001, everything they knew about the world was destroyed in just a few minutes. Then on September 11, 2001, everything changed. 2 days after the attacks, Dana called her friend Mindy Tucker, who worked at the Justice Department. By November 2001, Dana had a job as a spokesperson for the DOJ. She was back in the game. Here is the secret to how she moved up so fast. She took the jobs nobody else wanted. When other workers avoided environmental topics because they were boring and hard to understand, Dana volunteered for them. She became an expert in a subject that others ignored. This caught the attention of Andy Card, who was the White House Chief of Staff. In 2002, he brought her to the Council on Environmental Quality. From there, she moved up to Deputy Press Secretary. She was getting closer to the podium, but she was still not there yet. The opportunity came wrapped in sadness. Tony Snow was the White House Press Secretary, and he was amazing at the job, but he had colon cancer. In 2007, his sickness forced him to quit. On his final day, Tony Snow stood behind Dana. He was 6 feet 5 inches tall. She was only 5 feet tall. He placed his hands on her shoulders and said words she has never forgotten. "You are better at this than you think you are." On September 14, 2007, Dana Perino became the 26th White House Press Secretary. She was the first Republican woman ever to have the position. Tony Snow died on July 12, 2008. Dana wrote that the work that came after was all-consuming, and it was not until after the funeral that she had time to really cry. Dana held 155 press briefings during her time as White House Press Secretary. She worked from September 2007 until the final day of the Bush presidency on January 20, 2009. From the outside, she looked calm and in control, but behind the scenes, things were very different. She developed what she describes as an almost mind-reading relationship with President George W. Bush. He gave her superpower. He made sure everybody knew that her phone calls got returned first. Barbara Bush once said that loyalty goes both ways, and Dana still gets teary-eyed when she tells this story. But the job came with pressures that would break most people. Dana has admitted something amazing about how she handled difficult reporters. There were times when some reporters would be showing off trying to get attention, and sometimes just under the podium while holding her glass of water, she would flip them the bird. Nobody could see her doing it. She was smiling for the cameras while secretly showing her frustration below the podium. The most dramatic moment came on December 14, 2008. President Bush was on his goodbye trip to Baghdad. Dana was there with him. During a press conference, an Iraqi journalist named Muntahdar al-Zaidi stood up and threw both of his shoes at the president. He shouted, "This is a farewell kiss from the Iraqi people." Bush ducked away from the shoes with surprising quick moves. But in the chaos, a Secret Service agent knocked over a microphone stand. The steel arm whipped around and hit Dana just under her right eye. She saw stars like a cartoon character. The hit gave her a black eye. President Bush found her afterward and put his arm around her. He asked, "What happened? I saw you crying, but I thought it was just because the guy threw a shoe at me." Dana's response showed exactly who she was. She told him, "Well, sir, I adore you, but I grew up in Wyoming, and I am a little tougher than that." Weeks later, on January 20, 2009, Dana's time at the White House came to an end. It was President Bush's last day, and it was her last day, too. In the car to the airport, Dana leaned her head back against the seat and said something she still believes to this day. She said, "Nothing I ever do for the rest of my life will ever be that important or that hard." Then Dana Perino was about to face something much harder than politics. She was about to learn that the greatest pain in life has nothing to do with power or success. It comes from losing the ones you love most. In spring 2012, Dana got a Hungarian Vizsla puppy named Jasper. This was 2 months after her first dog, Henry, had died at 14 years old. She could not have known that Jasper would become one of the most famous dogs in America. Jasper appeared regularly on The Five. He became a celebrity with his own group of fans. People called him America's dog. He had a presence that went beyond what any normal pet should have. Dana wrote an entire book about him. But on September 4, 2021, at 12:40 in the afternoon, Jasper died. He was only 9 years old. Cancer had spread through his body fast. Dana was broken into pieces. 2 days later, at 3:08 in the morning, Dana woke up suddenly. Something was wrong. She realized the house was too quiet. Even when Jasper was sound asleep, he had a presence. Now that presence was gone. She went downstairs and she could feel Jasper everywhere. She wrote that this was his house and we were just living in it. She went to set his food bowl down like she always did, leaving him a little surprise for when he woke up. Then she caught herself before the bowl hit the floor. She placed it in the kitchen sink instead. A friend tried to comfort her by saying, "Jasper is probably still signing autographs in heaven." Another friend offered wisdom that made Dana cry. "Grief is the price we pay for love." Just weeks after Jasper died, a new puppy was born on September 22, 2021. His name is Percy. He is also a Vizsla. Peter chose the name after a World War I veteran he knew as a teenager when he worked at an English pub. The old soldier used to tell stories about the friendship among soldiers. Dana wrote that they knew Jasper would want them to be happy. She said their love for Jasper did not end with Jasper. It expanded with Percy, but the loss left a permanent mark. The woman who speaks to millions every day on television still wakes up in the darkness, sometimes remembering when the house was too quiet. In December 2024, something historic happened in cable news. A show that does not even air during prime time became the most watched program on all of cable television. That show is called The Five, and the woman at the center of it all is Dana Perino. The numbers are absolutely mind-blowing. The Five pulled in over 4 million viewers in the final quarter of 2024. No non-prime show had ever done this before in the history of cable news. For the entire year, the program averaged 3.4 million viewers. And on July 15, 2024, the day after the Trump assassination attempt, the show exploded to 5.5 million viewers in a single episode. Dana also co-hosts another show called America's Newsroom alongside Bill Hemmer. That program averaged 1.7 million viewers throughout 2024. Fox News captured 72% of the total cable news audience after the election, and Dana Perino sits at the very heart of that dominance. But her influence goes far beyond ratings. During the 2024 election cycle, she moderated the second Republican presidential primary debate. When she asked candidates to vote one of their fellow competitors off the island like a reality show, Ron DeSantis pushed back and called the question disrespectful. Dana did not flinch. On election night 2024, she made headlines again. At 2 o'clock in the morning, she criticized Kamala Harris for not conceding immediately. She said, "You should concede and let your opponent have their election night. Let them have their moment. I do not think it is right." The clip went viral within hours. Then in August 2025, she got into a public fight with California Governor Gavin Newsom. She said he was making a fool of himself with his social media posts trolling Donald Trump. Newsom's office fired back by calling her Dana Ding Dong Perino. The exchange proved that even after all these years, Dana Perino still commands national attention and knows how to create moments that people cannot ignore. She also released a new book in April 2025 called I Wish Someone Had Told Me About Building a Great Career and a Meaningful Life. It became another New York Times bestseller. And in December 2025, she announced something nobody expected. Her first novel, a romantic comedy called Purple State set in Wisconsin, coming out in April 2026. But here is what most people do not know. While she was dominating cable news, she quietly spent Thanksgiving 2025 in Sierra Leone, working on a hospital ship called the Global Mercy. She worked alongside doctors providing free surgeries to people who could never afford them. She said they do not waste a dollar ever and that she had seen it with her own eyes. There is a question people ask Dana Perino that she has learned to answer with grace. Why do you not have children? In her memoir The Good News Is, she addressed this directly. She wrote that she gradually came to realize she did not want children. No long explanation, no apology, just calm acknowledgement of a choice she made. Peter's children from his previous marriages made Dana a stepmother. His grandchildren call her Grandma America. She has family, but she chose not to have biological children of her own. She has spoken about watching working mothers with something close to awe. She said managing a career and raising children is something I am quite in awe of. She said she looks at working moms and says she does not know how they do it. Instead of children, Dana has built what she calls a different kind of legacy, one grounded in love and impact and self-awareness. She mentors young women. She writes books that reach millions. She pours the kind of love that might have gone to children into her dogs instead. Dana Perino took risks her whole life. She talked to a stranger on an airplane and married him. She took the boring assignments nobody wanted and ended up at the White House podium. She chose career over motherhood and built a different kind of legacy. That is the real Dana Perino. Not just the woman behind the podium or the face on television, but someone who carries joy and grief and love and loss all at the same time. Someone who proves that you can reach the top of your profession and still be human enough to cry in the darkness when no one is watching. And she is still just getting started. So, what do you think about Dana Perino's incredible journey from a cattle ranch in Wyoming to the White House podium? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.